Thank you so much for involving me in this. I see a lot of very old friends in the gallery and some new friends who I've only met virtually. So fasten seatbelts. I'm going to try to do this in 5 minutes. I want to talk about how analysis and studying problems gets in the way of getting stuff done. So be aware of the subtitle here. We want to get beyond unmet aspirations, myopic victories, and defensive cowering. This distinction, I think, is easy to understand. Goals help us to worry, but actions, even though they may be insufficient one at a time, they at least marshal our capabilities. We don't just want to hang the mission accomplished banner. We want to get stuff done. But I think the harder distinction to understand is that we are all hardwired to believe that naming the problem and understanding the problem has to come first. How can you possibly get stuff done aimlessly? That's half the story. But the other half is that I believe it's very fundamentally true that you can't make lives better and whatever else you want to achieve without understanding and comparing solutions. And as soon as we define the problem, we close the door on many solutions that might be preferable. Little cartoon here is the person who goes into the doctor and says, my pants are too tight. The solution is not get bigger pants. The solution is to look for the root causes of the real problem, not the Band-Aid on the problem. So instead of asking what is the problem and how bad is it, we should be asking more, how can we fulfill a human need or desire or non-human species, whatever we care about, with more net benefit and less injustice than at the present day. So we should be asking things like, what do we know how to do? What will doing one of these possible things bring to the world in terms of benefits and costs? And could we obtain even more benefit at equal or less cost by doing something else? So here's one example. It's in my domain, but there are many parallel examples in other people's domains. The single-use plastic water bottle. When I was a kid, there were exactly 0 of these made anywhere in the 70s. Now we have 50 billion in the United States, 500 billion worldwide. 1/500th of all the energy in the country goes into making these plastic bottles. And it's got great implications for carbon footprint, for disposal, for leachate, nanoplastics, etc. The wonderful agency, at least wonderful until January, the US EPA, has been defining the problem for 20 plus years as cleaning the water inside the bottle, getting the bisphenol A down to some number of parts per billion. Bisphenol F comes along as a substitute. It's equally bad. Get that down to some number of parts per billion, and so on and so on. But no one is asking, how can we fulfill the function, provide humans with clean, ready, cold, safe drinking water without the 500 billion units? And we used to know how to do that. This is not even an example where we've never done it. This is one where we did it before with infrastructure, with drinking fountains, but we stopped doing it. So many other examples that I hope we'll talk about in the teams this week. That's a picture of the Monarca project in central Mexico. Incentives to preserve the unique, very small habitat there. And you can look at your leisure at the slides for other examples. We're going to talk later today and through the week about the tired old objections to beneficial action. Wonderful book by A.O. Hirschman from the early 1990s, The Rhetoric of Reactionaryism. And his 3 tired objections are: 1, it'll make the problem worse. Seatbelts will cause people to drive faster. Well, there's some merit to that, but not if people are informed about the perverse consequences. Secondly, it'll only make a small dent in a big problem. And when my daughter was at grammar school, her school was called the Starfish, because they kept repeating this parable that, yeah, throwing one starfish back in the water that's stuck on land is not going to help the species, but it did matter to that starfish. And then third, it will make something else worse. And there's a big literature in my world about making other risks worse by making some risks better. And my response as a regulator was always, yeah, there's some truth in that. Let's fix both problems, and let's just not let one be the enemy of the other. So we'll talk about picking winners and losers. Tomorrow, we'll talk about science and uncertainty and policy. And then finally, the age-old, well, yes, somebody should be doing that, but not me. And my response to that is that the one small silver lining of what we're experiencing in the US this year is that when normal people come back to power, there may actually be organizations that had structural problems from their very beginnings that could now finally be retooled and rebuilt out of those ashes to enable them not to say this is not my turf and it is no one's turf.
Adam, quickly, I'm going to interject to let you know that that ding that you all heard, hopefully, that was a 30-second signifier just to wrap within the next 30 seconds. Take your time. We're still ahead, but I think you've got enough time to wrap
No,
up
no,
here.
almost done.
Thank
Here's
you.
a slide that someone can read at their leisure. Wendy Wagner's on the Zoom. I owe the other people have thought of solution-focused thinking long before I came along. And I'll just finally say, here's Elon's edict from his short time in government. Everybody needs to tell me what they did this week. If you don't, you'll be resigning. There's a little humor on the right-hand side, a little Rick Astley. But it struck me that when I was in government, at OSHA and EPA, I never micromanaged or tried to hound people with what did you do this week. On the other hand, inaction has consequences. And I did bring my group together. I ran the regulatory wing for a while, and then I was an enforcement official with a bigger staff. And we talked weekly, monthly, yearly. What are we doing? What have we done? Because I wanted people to understand that while we're working, we are accepting the status quo, and the status quo has costs and benefits. And if we can do better, delay is a choice and a very consequential choice. So I think that's it. Thank you.